all I got to do is put it in here.
There we go. Okay.
Let's see.
Should I test it?
Yeah, see if it's on.
Hello. Oh, wait a minute.
You gotta turn it on.
That's a good point. I'm bad at technology. Hello.
Well, it's on. I don't have my glasses, so I can't
Oh,
see.
sorry. Maybe it's the mic itself.
There's a flip. There's a something you have to. Oh, now try it.
All right. Oh.
Yeah, it's on now.
That's on. There's a big pop.
Should I turn it up more? See,
I think so. Yeah. Maybe that's good.
try it now and see.
How's this? You hear me? Great. I put it on the floor or something. I don't know. This
You
is
can
good.
just leave it here.
Leave
or
it there.
You can, or where do you want it?
That's perfect. Because yeah, it has wires.
Yeah.
That's perfect. All right, I'm good. Started. Thank you so much. Yeah. So we're fancy today. We have a microphone. Thank you very much. That changes everything. I don't have to shout, you know. So hi, I'm Robert Buxton, and I play the piano. Yeah, thank you. I teach at UNC Chapel Hill. So again, we won't talk about sports. Well, I see some people maybe are Duke fans. It's okay. You're still welcome to be here tonight. It's okay. State fans also, that's okay. Yeah. So I'm going to play some classical piano for you. I think I'm substituting for someone tonight, but that's okay. Happy to do it. I'm going to play some, classical pieces. So the first piece I'm going to play is a short movement from a Beethoven sonata, from his 13th sonata. So that's kind of early in his life. So to give you some context, the 14th sonata is the famous Moonlight. So this is the one before it. This is from the one before it, okay. Yeah. I try to play less familiar things. It gets more interesting. So this piece is short, but it shows you Beethoven's musical character very well. It's in C minor. It's a very dark and a very stormy key. And just, think about the late 18th century. Mozart, Haydn, and in philosophy and literature, Voltaire, Rousseau, It was a time very, I read somewhere they said the art of letter writing was very important. And the society was there were all of these social norms, politeness. But Beethoven is the opposite. He's like this bull in a china shop almost. And, he was famous for breaking pianos in Vienna. But that's not his fault totally, because the pianos in Vienna at that time were very easy to break. So hopefully I won't break this one. I don't have any insurance on it, but yeah. So we'll start with this Beethoven C minor. It's a movement from the 13th sonata. And anything else? Oh, yeah. Beethoven, especially in this piece, he's a master of what I'd call jump scares. Like a good horror movie has periods of quiet, and then, I'm saying in the music, the periods of quiet, and then suddenly, boom, jump scares, right? You're going to hear that. I'll show you the opening just to prepare you for it. So, what was that? Yeah, I have to know how to, see. So, no microphone for a second. The first, I'll show you the first jump scare, then I'll actually play the piece. So, it starts like this, And then, that's what I mean by jump scare. So, and he does it. Mozart wouldn't do it. Mozart would write. That's 18th century. That's the powdered wigs but Beethoven was sort of, like I said, a bull in a china shop. So here it is. Yeah, well, that's not very nice, you know. He's a great composer, obviously. That's Beethoven. Okay. So, what's next? Oh, yes, Chopin. So, yes, hi.
Who did that first, Beethoven or Haydn?
That was Beethoven.
I
Yeah.
know that was
Oh.
Beethoven, but who did the first?
Well, yeah, because Haydn was his teacher.
Ah,
Haydn was, and he took a lesson or two with Mozart too. Yeah, I'm not saying that Haydn and Mozart don't have drama in their music, they do. But I think that kind of in your face, that's Beethoven. That's just him. And but if you read what he was like as a person, it kind of confirms it.
Haydn was his teacher.
Yeah, one of his teachers. Yeah, Salieri was also his teacher. Salieri did not kill Mozart, by the way. Fun fact. Yeah, so now a different person, a different composer. This is Chopin. So Chopin was Polish, and you know, this is a nocturne. It's an early piece of Chopin, a young Chopin, and a nocturne is just a night piece, so it's appropriate for now. The first person to write, maybe famously to write nocturnes for the piano, was an Irish composer named John Field. You don't hear his music every day, but wonderful composer, and I should have brought some of his music today, but sorry, didn't have time. But so Chopin modeled his pieces on John Field, but other things came to influence him as well. One thing is Polish folk music. There's a huge influence of that in Chopin. And in this piece, in the middle, there's this, what sounds like to me, a Polish folk dance, you know. Something like that. I can't play with one hand, but the main thing would be opera. Because Chopin, you know, he lived in Paris. He was exiled from his homeland, from Poland. Never went back. And that's another thing, that nostalgia informs his music, everything he wrote. So, but he, like many others at that time, he loved Italian opera, Vincenzo Bellini, Donizetti, you know, all of these they all lived in Paris. You know, the Paris Opera was where all this great music was happening. I heard someone say that, you know, a piece like this is just like an opera aria. You have the orchestra on the left hand, And then in the right hand, you have the singer, the soprano, the prima donna. Oops, that was loud. Not that, but this. Sound, it's like opera, you know? So he maybe channels that art form into the piano, I think. So here it is, Nocturne in C sharp minor, opus posthumous. It's published after he died, actually. That's what that means. Oh, hello. So, yeah, Frederick Chopin. Actually, it's funny. I tend to go into, I have two very young kids at home, so I'm starting to tell dad jokes. After Chopin, I'm going to play Liszt today. So if you go to the store, you bring a shopping list. You get it? Chopin Liszt. I know, it's terrible. Okay. All right.
Hey, can you guys put your mask on so I can take a picture, please?
For the photo, yeah.
Yeah, because Facebook won't take it because y'all don't have your mask on.
Really?
Yeah. Okay, I won't take a picture of you.
There you go.
Or you could just do this.
Yes, that's true, you could do that, that'd be fun. There you go. Just put your arm up, Norma. Yeah, just do
There you
that,
go.
they'll take it if you got your
perfect.
arm up. Excellent. Okay, y'all are good, y'all can take them
Now
off
you can
now
take
if
them
you
off,
want
too.
to. I don't recommend it, but you know how I am.
Up to you.
How white?
Slanted. All right. Frederick Chopin.
That is the piano.
okay, yeah. Mike, I don't know. I mean, it's great, but let's try it this way. So, next night, like I said, I'm going to play Liszt. So, Chopin Liszt. They were friends, actually. They knew each other. Chopin was born in 1810 in Poland. Liszt was born in Hungary, not too far, in 1811. But Liszt lived much longer. You know, Chopin was plagued by bad health, tuberculosis. Some people even say now they examined his dental records. He had cystic fibrosis as well. So yeah, Chopin lived to be 41 or 2, a very short life. But Liszt lived a long time. And this piece it's interesting because, there are many sides to Franz Liszt. The standard, way people think of Liszt is as a rock star, like the first rock star. And that's true, but that period only lasted for a short time in his young years. He was also, this people don't talk about as much, but he was also very religious. He was very Catholic. He wanted to become a priest or a monk at different points in his life. There are even photos of him in his older age. He spent a lot of time in Rome, in the Vatican, and he would wear priest's clothing. And I don't know if this is a true story. It's funny, it's a little bit terrible, but I heard it somewhere, and it makes sense. So, at the same time, Liszt was he was a rock star. And he was in relationships with many different women, and so that's how would I put it, like a dichotomy in his personality. And, I think of maybe some country singers are like that. Yeah, like George Jones or Johnny Cash. On the one hand, they would sing gospel music with, but on the other hand, you look at their personal life. So, anyway, the story is that Liszt was finally going to get ordained. And he was in the Sistine Chapel, waiting for the bishop or the cardinal to ordain him with a big group. And there were also some nuns there. And there was a piano in the Sistine Chapel, so he sat down and started to play, just for fun. And all the nuns fainted. So the cardinal or bishop came and said, this is not going to work. Get out. So he was not ordained. But this piece is called The Legend of St. Francis of Paolo Walking on the Water. Quite a title. So St. Francis of Paolo, he's not St. Francis of Assisi, it's another St. Francis. He was also from what's now Italy, and I think it was the 12th century. The story or the legend was that he was a traveling sort of beggar. He was an ascetic. And he wanted to cross the Straits of Messina from Italy is like a boot kicking a soccer ball. Yeah. So from the tip of the boot to Sicily, he wanted to cross that body of water, the Straits of Messina. And the boatmen said to him, well, if you're a holy man, why don't you walk across the water? Yeah. And he said, okay. And he did, in the legend. He took his jacket, used it as a sail, and his walking stick. And I think Liszt had a painting of this, and he was very inspired by this. So he wrote this piece. And it's a wonderful piece. It's crazy. It sounds like a stormy ocean. And you hear two things. In the left hand, you hear what sounds like the water, the turbulent waves, And in the right hand, it's like hymn. It's a hymn. I'm using two different forms. It sounds like a hymn. It's like that's a hymn. That's St. Francis just calmly walking across the water. So yeah, this is a crazy piece. It's a little longer than other pieces I'm playing, but good luck. Oops. was something else. The question is, so if Beethoven broke pianos, why didn't Liszt? Well, it's about technology. He was in Paris, like Chopin. And in Paris, well, Chopin preferred the Pleyel pianos, which were a lighter touch, you could tell. But a company called the Erard, a fellow named Erard started a company. And this piano was built with what pianos today have, a cast iron frame. You see this metal here? So that enabled the pianist to play in a very different way. The way Beethoven was he was playing, but it would break the old school pianos. This cast iron frame, you could pound the thing, it's not going to break. So Liszt had that to his advantage. So anyway, what was I going to do next? Oh yeah, Tchaikovsky. I'm going to play Tchaikovsky. So this is a short piece. It's called the Valse Sentimentale, or Sentimental Waltz. And the next few pieces I'm going to play, they're actually most famous as violin pieces. I have this obsession with the violin, but I'm too lazy to learn it, so stick to the piano. But the funny thing is, you usually hear this on the violin, but it's a piano piece originally. So you hear it on the violin, but I'm playing it in its, I guess, original form. I don't know how to describe Tchaikovsky. You'll hear it, you'll feel it. Yes, he's very Russian, but his fellow Russian composers considered him to be too Western, whatever that means. Mussorgsky, Glinka, but anyway, so this is the Sentimental Waltz, or Valse Sentimentale by Tchaikovsky. Somebody told me don't play any Russian music tonight, but you have to, it's terrible what's going on, but you have to sort of separate the artist and the history from what's going on now. But anyway, so this is Tchaikovsky. Piece that's famous on the violin, but it's originally a song for the voice and the piano. So, and it's arranged for solo piano here by Percy Granger. So the piece is called Après, or Après un rêve, if I can say it in French, right? By Fauré, the French composer Gabriel Fauré. After a Dream. And yeah, again, it's for a singer with a voice and with piano accompaniment, but it's typically played on the violin. And Percy Granger, who's Australian, arranged it for solo piano. You know, Fauré lived in the late 19th century, well into the 20th century. He died in the 1920s. But if you look at his dates, they more closely align to the French Impressionist painters than Debussy. People say Debussy is Monet in music, you know, Impressionism, which is it's true, I can see it. But I also think that Fauré, whose style is a little different, a little older than Debussy, I think there's some feeling of Impressionist painting for me in it. And you know, it's like in French cooking, it's all about the sauce. So in music, it's all about sort of this affect, you know. Yeah, it's very, you know, I don't know how to, it's very, very French, right? So whatever that means. So this is After a Dream by Fauré, arranged for solo piano by Percy Granger. Percy Granger, I don't like to talk bad about people, but you look him up. He was a wacko. Not a great person, but he did this nice arrangement, so we'll give him that. So yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not kidding. Very, very strange guy. So okay. French sound to me. It has that, that perfume to it. So, anyway, that's Fauré, and a wonderful composer. I love his music. So, next I'm going to play the British Edward Elgar. He was a Sir, so Sir Edward Elgar, who's just also an incredible composer. Wrote the famous cello concerto and so many things. This piece it's a violin piece, but he himself arranged it for solo piano. So it's kind of, that's not being too inauthentic, I guess. He did arrange it himself for piano. Actually, it's funny because a lot of pieces, like even symphonies for orchestra, the composers would rearrange it for the piano. And I read somewhere that's because they wanted to sell more music. So they could sell it to someone who played, they didn't have radio in the 19th century, or CDs or anything, so you would just buy the music and play it. That's how you get to know a Beethoven symphony, for example. But anyway, this is the Salut d'amour, or Love's Greeting. He wrote it for his fiancée. It's a lovely piece. It's very, Victorian British. I don't know, it just has that flavor to it. And yeah, it's interesting that, like Tchaikovsky, who was not considered Russian enough by his peers, Elgar also was not considered British enough. First of all, he was Catholic, which in Britain was, sin. It's not good in England. And, it's not, but it wasn't the mainstream, right? And his style was influenced by people like, I think, Fauré and others on the continent of Europe. So, but anyway, but I think it sounds, to me, very British, just like Tchaikovsky sounds Russian. So this is the Salut d'amour. You've probably heard it before. It's when I was growing up, I had this CD. I guess they don't do those anymore, but it was a music that was played on the Titanic. It was a band had, it was a remake. I mean, obviously it wasn't original recordings, but So, but anyway, this was on there. This piece, I remember it on that, and it's so fitting because that's the time that, he wrote this a little before the Titanic sailed, but that's the cultural context that he's coming from. So, yeah. So that was the first class band playing. So they played this. I don't know what they played in the third class. Probably a lot of fun music too, but I don't know. Anyway, Salut d'amour by Edward Elgar. It's a beautiful piece, for I love it. It's that melody. It soars like a bird or something flying in the sky. So, yeah, this Elgar. Next, I'm going to play a piece. It's called the Sicilienne by Maria von Paradis. Except it's not really by her. So Maria von Paradis was a wonderful composer in Vienna in the late 1700s. All right, and well, in the early 20th century, a violinist named Samuel Dushkin, who was Polish, emigrated, came to the U.S. actually. The violinist Samuel Dushkin discovered, quote unquote, this piece by Maria von Paradis, but he wrote it. So it's a forgery. Yeah. But it's not such a terrible thing. I'll tell you why. So a lot of composers did this. Fritz Kreisler would do this a lot too. It's very embarrassing to play your own piece, to go in front of an audience and say, "I wrote this." People won't take it seriously. You say, "Well, I found this is by Haydn or by Chopin. I found it in a vault somewhere." People will be impressed. So I think that's my theory why he titled it. So this is the Sicilienne by Maria von Paradis, but it's really by Samuel Dushkin. And it's a violin piece, and I wouldn't say this is an arrangement because I simply took the music and just played both parts, the piano and the violin. So that's it. I don't have a violin friend here today, but I'll just play it myself. I love this piece. It's absolutely beautiful. All these violin pieces, I'm learning them because a hero of mine died a year ago. His name is Ivry Gitlis, Gitlis. He was a violinist. Lives to be 98, and was just this incredible musician. I was so inspired by him. Even just listening to him talk is amazing. And a lot of these pieces, the violin thing, so from the list on, after the list, it's all music from his repertoire. And I've tried to learn from him how to play it. I don't play it exactly like him, but I've tried to emulate the way he phrases, which is just, he plays like a gypsy violinist, not like a classical player, and that's a good thing. I think because it has whatever that is. Okay, so this is the Sicilian. Sicilienne is a dance. It's a type of dance in three. And actually, Silent Night is kind of a Sicilian. It's bum, 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 bum. See, but I don't know if that was intentional, but it's bum, 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 bum. It has a lilt to it. You'll hear it. You'll hear that rhythm. So. couple more left. So I'm going to play now a couple pieces of the great violin composer Fritz Kreisler. Again, I don't have a violin, it's all on piano. The first one is Schön Rosmarin, famous piece. And it's a waltz, it's a Viennese waltz, which is a regular waltz is boom, chuck, chuck, boom. Viennese waltz is boom, chuck, chuck, boom, chuck. The second beat is a little tipsy there. So that's a Viennese waltz. Again, I just took both parts, the violin and the piano, and just played together. Schön Rosmarin. Lovely piece. And you know, Kreisler was like Elgar I was talking about. He was from Vienna, and he was writing music in this what's called La Belle Époque, you know, the turn of the century, before the First World War. And his music has a joy and a simplicity almost that kind of went away after the First World War. You know, the world changed, Europe changed, U.S. changed. Kreisler was Jewish and he escaped the Nazis and came to the U.S., lived in New York. And I have some stories about him from the next piece. But he didn't like to practice. He liked to sit in Central Park and just watch people walk by. And he was a wonderful person, unlike that Granger guy I told you about. He was a wonderful person. Whenever he went to a concert, he said, I'm going to see my friends. He didn't say, I'm going to perform. He's going to Carnegie Hall or something. He said, I'm going to see my friends. So I have a story about that after this. Schön Rosmarin by Fritz Kreisler. Come on. Take a seat. Another Kreisler piece. I'm going to sort of conclude with this. But although when I conclude, I never really conclude. I have more, but yeah. So this is Liebeslied, or Love Sorrow. I think I may have played this here before, but forgive me. It might be the only thing I'm repeating. So, this is Liebeslied by Kreisler, arranged by Sergei Rachmaninoff. So Rachmaninoff changes. I didn't change much there. I just played what's there. Rachmaninoff, turned it into a whole different piece. He added Rachmaninoff into it. So they were friends. They both, Rachmaninoff escaped from Russia, the revolution. He came here, and New York, later Beverly Hills, California. I don't know why, but that's where Rachmaninoff lived. and Chrysler lived in New York, and they played together. They were friends. They played recitals together. And I may have told this last time. There's a story. I told you Chrysler didn't practice much. So they're doing a recital at Carnegie Hall, and Chrysler got lost in the middle of the piece. So Rachmaninoff keeps playing in the concert. And he walks up to Rachmaninoff while he's playing and says, "Hey, Sergey, where are we?" Yeah. And Rachmaninoff, who was, you see his photos, very serious, somber guy. He says with a straight face, he mutters, "Carnegie Hall." So, not much help. Yeah. It's a good story. I love it. Yeah. I have another one. Did I tell you? I think last time I played a lot of Rachmaninoff. Lots of Rachmaninoff. And so my grandfather's, true story, my grandfather met Rachmaninoff. Now, my mother's from Russia, but my dad's from Virginia. 8th, 9th generation Virginian. So it's quite a combination. But my father's father was in dental school in Richmond in the 1930s. He's no longer alive. He loved classical music, and he was volunteering as an usher for this concert series in Richmond. And Rachmaninoff was giving a recital there. And so my grandfather's backstage, and his boss said, "Don't let anyone through these doors." It's a true story. Okay. So somebody tries to open the doors a few minutes later. So my grandfather closes in, and there's this like tug of war, and wham! The guy kicks the door open. It's 6.5 foot tall Rachmaninoff himself. And my grandfather would say that he said Rachmaninoff spoke to me. "I'm so honored." You know what he said? "Get out of my way." So I have a personal connection to this composer. Yeah. So this is the Liebeslied, or Love Sorrow, by Fritz Kreisler, arranged by Rachmaninoff. Now, I didn't really write it, but I like doing arrangements of things myself. So, you know, arrangements are like, it's like translating a book. So you can take anything in the world and play it on your instrument. So that's what I like to do. And I've done different, I've done here, I've played some before. I think I played some Mahalia Jackson arrangements. I did the great singer, gospel singer. Today I'll play some big band arrangement. I could do two if you want. I mean, I have a bunch. How about, you want to hear, yeah? You like it? Okay. So I need the music. Where is it? Here. It's on this thing. I mean, I wrote it by hand, but I took photos of it. I'll play Solitude, which is by Duke Ellington, but I arranged it based off of a recording of Glenn Miller's orchestra band. And I love him because, yeah, first of all, he was an American hero. You know, he died, he crossed the English Channel during the war, and he was lost. He served his country. You know, it's incredible. And I grew up in a town in New Jersey where I got out of New Jersey very fast. I went to school in Texas. But anyway, the town in New Jersey was, no offense if you're from there, but it's a nice place. Glenn Miller lived in that town. And obviously not when I was growing up, but his house was there, and there was a plaque, and I would walk by it and just look at it. It's amazing. So this is Solitude. So Duke Ellington wrote it. This is a version from Glenn Miller, and I've tried to throw it together for piano. Okay, so here it is. Let's see it. heard this one before. Yeah, you've heard, this is his signature, so he wrote it. Well, I could play more, but I think we can, I'm going to be back in a month or two, so I should save something. But thank you very much for coming out tonight.